Hey, pretty people. So I didn't think I was going to do another video so quickly, but I was thinking about the campaign, Marianne Williamson, and there was something I wanted to address as a spiritual person myself. I keep hearing this sort of opinion out there that Marianne Williamson's campaign was hurt by her spirituality, which is something that's been cropping up a lot. And also, I've heard people saying that it's so nice that she has adjusted her communication style to sound more, I don't know what, grounded or professional or something. And it pisses me off because the last cycle, when I watched the elections, I was looking actually for a really good candidate that I could get behind, and I looked at Tulsi Gabbard and I looked at Andrew Yang and Bernie Sanders, and I wanted someone who was grassroots. In other words, they didn't take corporate PAC money. And then I saw, oh, there's this author. And I was expecting that, there was like the kind of cardboard cutout write up about her, that she was a self help author. But I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. And I was expecting that she would be spacey and kind of woozy and woo woo when I went to look at an interview. And I looked at the interview on the Breakfast Club and I liked her, but I wasn't immediately drawn in until I saw her speaking. I watched her announcement speech for her launch in 2019. And I was very impressed with how grounded and practical her rhetoric was around politics, and her knowledge of history and her knowledge of economics and her knowledge of the House and the Senate and how all of those nuts and bolts work. So I think it's kind of unfair to say that she's become more um, as if practical when in actual fact she always was. I think it's hard to be practical when you're plunged into the deep end of a debate, which already was a pretty crowded field. And then the thing is, I think there's an assumption that no one knew who she was before she got there. But I bet you that CNN and MSNBC are watching all the announcement speeches of all the candidates to see what is coming and what they have to deal with, especially when, as we suspect, they've already chosen the big corporations, especially the war machine and the banks and pharmaceutical companies. All these entities who have a vested interest in how elections are uh, run and how the results of the elections, and also I think that is a little bit tied in with the Democratic National Committee. Now, this is all my theory anyway. So I think that Marianne Williamson and many of the other candidates also were kind of set up to fail and to favor Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Now, the thing is, like, you have to realize that Marianne Williamson, from her announcement speech, had painted a target on the back of the war machine and also announced in her announcement speech that she wanted to pay reparations for slavery. And she had a detailed plan in mind with numbers. And, uh, and she had studied the topic, which means that this is immediately a threat to Joe Biden, whose main kind of credential was that he was the vice president when Obama was president and was supposedly a great friend of Obama's. So this was supposed to have some cachet with Black America. Um, so that was why they would have kind of planned around. And if you look at the first debates, there's definitely something going on where Marianne goes to talk about reparations and then Kamala Harris interrupts. with her talk about body cams and whatever she wanted to say to Joe Biden. Um, I think that had more to do with stopping any talk of reparations than it did whatever than the point about Joe Biden, which was sort of it was a grievance that she aired on the debate stage. Like, I don't think voters need to know that. Anyway, yeah. So and so I hear people kind of defensive about Marianne's spirituality and also critical of it in a way, as if to say that she shouldn't present herself as too spiritual or she will put people off. Look, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if she comes like Elizabeth Warren with a helmet head and the um, librarian glasses and looks as kind of nerdy and practical as you could possibly want, and her only hobby would be bird watching, they would still come after her for that because of the fact that she's attacking corporations. They have to smear her. It's a matter of self-preservation for the corporations who have a huge amount of influence on certain media outlets, in particular um, MSNBC and CNN, and also Fox. Uh, they have a vested interest in smearing candidates who have decided that they're not going to take corporate PAC money. So loose cannon there. Like they don't know where her uh, allegiances are because of the fact that she is only taking small donations. So I wanted to kind of encourage people to not think that the real reason that Marianne didn't do well last cycle was because of her so-called spirituality. She was just as practical last time as she is being this time. It's just that this time we know who she is. And so a lot more eyes were on her announcement speech. And also the media started covering her before she even announced this time. So a lot more eyes were on that. And so she had an opportunity to speak the way she normally does, which is quite practical. And also, I kind of object to the implication that if someone were, God forbid, into crystals or into even tarot or astrology or anything really, from a secular perspective, those are really just hobbies anyway. So I don't know why any of that would be relevant that it should prevent you from running for president when the last um, well, all the presidents that we've known in history, pretty much, like we haven't even had an atheist president, so that I know of. So most of them have been Christian, and I don't see why, if someone were to believe in crystals, that that would preclude them from being in office any more than bird watching or collecting stamps. And as a spiritual person, I also object to the implication that someone should be um, sidelined for such an interest, as if they're automatically um, not intelligent, basically, is what I'm saying. So, so that's what I wanted to say about that. Like, it was never, ever, ever going to happen that a candidate who is grassroots, who's taking small donations, who's talking about reparations, who's talking about a Department of Peace, which everyone makes fun of. But the reason they're making fun of it is because of the fact that it's so scary to the establishment, because of how much of the economy is dependent on arms. So you have to realize, like, that I hate using this word, but the narrative that is being constructed around Marianne Williamson actually has nothing to do with something she's doing wrong. They would have to manufacture something anyway because of the plan that she has set into motion. And so it's really not about spiritual or practical. It is really about the money, as usual. And that's what I have to say about that. I love you all.